and welcome to Imagine This Stories. It's summertime. Ugh, I love summer. This means warm, sunny days, swimming pools, sandcastles, and bonfires. Hey, do you ever cook food over a bonfire? What kind of foods do you cook? Maybe hot dog on a stick? Ooh, maybe a s'more. There are so many fun ways to make s'mores. You can use peanut butter cups instead of chocolate bars, or Oreos or vanilla wafers instead of graham crackers. Or, for a super sweet treat, you can use Rice Krispie treats. But one thing that they all have in common for the very best s'mores is cooking them over a fire. Today, we're going to talk about a fire. A really crazy fire. So sit back, relax, kick off your shoes. And for the next few minutes, imagine this. Today's story is about a man named Moses. There are a lot of good Moses stories in the Bible that I could tell. But today, we're going to talk about one that involves fire. Moses was an Israelite who was raised in the palace in Egypt. That's another story for another day. Long story short, he ran away from Egypt, got married to a woman named Zipporah, and had a baby named Gershom. Moses worked as a shepherd for his father-in-law. Every day, he spent time in the fields taking care of sheep. He didn't know it then, but God was preparing him for a long time in the wilderness. Being a shepherd was hard work. You know, if sheep are left on their own, they would drink any water they happened to stumble upon. So one of Moses' jobs was to lead them to good water. He would give them a call and lead them to a fresh spring of good water. That's actually something cool you may not have known about sheep. They learn to recognize their shepherd's voice and follow him where he leads. Another job Moses had to do as a shepherd was protecting the sheep from predators and always keeping an eye out for any sheep who wandered off. Grass was often scarce and hard to find, so it was easy for sheep to stroll this way and that way looking for food, and before long, they might find themselves separated from the flock. Like I said, being a shepherd is hard work. Now, one day, Moses was taking care of Jethro's sheep. That's his father-in-law. He was a priest of Midian, by the way. Just a fun fact. As Moses led the flock to the far side of the wilderness, he came to Horeb, a mountain of God. There, he saw something crazy. It was a bush that was on fire, but the bush wasn't burning up. So Moses thought, I better go check this out. This is really weird. Why isn't the bush burning up? Then he heard a voice that said, Moses, Moses. It was God speaking to Moses. And Moses said, yep, that's me. Here I am. Don't come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then the voice said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. God went on to tell him that the Israelites that Moses left behind in Egypt had been crying out to him because they were slaves and they wanted to be rescued. God said that he had heard their cries and was going to take them out of Egypt and bring them to a great land that was flowing with milk and honey. That just means like a really nice place. I don't think it was literally flowing with milk and honey. Then God said something Moses was not expecting at all. He said, okay, so go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt. But Moses was like, yeah, I'm not really sure that's the best idea, God. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the people out of Egypt? But God said, no, I'll be with you. Moses was still not convinced. He said to God, well, what if I go to these Israelites and tell them, the God of your fathers has sent me, and they say, who's that? What are you talking about? What should I tell them? God said, say to them, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has sent me to you. Moses was like, but what if they don't believe me, or they don't listen to me? Or they say, psh, God didn't appear to you. So the Lord said to him, all right, what are you holding in your hand? Moses looked at his hand and saw he was holding a big stick. Oh, it's my staff, he replied. The Lord said, fine, throw it on the ground. So Moses threw it on the ground, and all of a sudden, it became a snake. Obviously, That totally freaked him out, and he ran away from that snake. Then the Lord said to him, "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." Yikes. But Moses reached out his hand. He took the snake by the tail, and it turned back to a staff in his hand. "This should convince them that I appeared to you," God said. Moses must have still looked unsure, because then God said, "Put your hand inside of your jacket." So Moses put his hand inside of his jacket, and when he took it out, his skin was all scaly. Was it dragon sickness? No, he had leprosy. "Now put it back in your cloak," God said. So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored, just like the rest of him. Then the Lord said, "If they don't believe you or pay attention to the first sign, the whole stick turning into a snake thing, then they'll probably believe the second, you getting leprosy. But if they don't believe these two signs or don't listen to you, take some water from the Nile River and pour it onto the ground. The water you take from the river will become blood when it's on the ground." Moses then said to the Lord, "So look, I'm really sorry, but to be honest, I'm not a very good speaker. I'm really not sure I'm the man for the job." By now, God had had enough. He asked Moses, "Who gave people their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will help you speak and teach and tell you what to say." But Moses tried one more time. He said, please send somebody else." So God agreed to send Moses' brother Aaron along with him. God said he'd be with both of them. So that's what Moses did. He met up with his brother, and the two of them headed for Egypt to ask Pharaoh to let God's people go. You'll never believe what happens next. Come back next week, and you'll find out. Did you like today's story? I do. You want to hear something cool? Moses was born during a time when the Pharaoh of Egypt had ordered the death of all newborn Hebrew boys, like Moses. To save him, his mom hid him in a basket on the Nile River. Before long, that basket was found by Pharaoh's daughter, and she adopted him as her own son. So Moses was raised as an Egyptian prince, even though he really was a Hebrew slave. But this was all part of God's plan to save his people. So come back next week as we imagine this. Bye!